Hey guys, this is Aaron from RF Digital. Today we're going to set up your SimbleeCloud account and walk through some of its functionality. Let's get started. First, we need to set up our SimbleeCloud account. In your web browser, navigate to admin.simbleecloud.com. This will bring you to the login page. Click the link at the bottom that says sign up. Enter your email address and the password you'd like to use to log into SimbleeCloud and hit the sign up button. Once you've completed your registration, log into your email account. Open the email titled SimbleeCloud Create Your Account and click the Create Account button. Your registration has been completed. Continue by clicking the Get Started button and enter the email and password you created earlier. Once you click Login, you'll be redirected to your SimbleeCloud dashboard. On your dashboard, you'll notice a user ID listed there. This is a unique identifier that's basically an address for your SimbleeCloud account. Let's check out the modules page. Click the modules link on the left-hand side of the page. On this page, we store the ESN of each Simblee module we want our SimbleeCloud to communicate with. Each Simblee module has its own unique ESN or electronic serial number. We'll use this page later on to communicate with a Simblee module using SimbleeCloud. Clicking the New button will allow you to create a new module entry. First, we would enter a name for our module. You can give custom names to each of your Simblee modules. In this case, we'll use example. Next, we'd enter the ESN of our Simblee module. You can retrieve your Simblee ESN by uploading the Get ESN sketch from your Arduino IDE. The next field is the Force ESN field. If we normally send data to our ESN, we can redirect that data seamlessly by entering a Force ESN here. You can leave this blank for now. The fourth field is our Initial ESN field. When a Simblee module initiates connection with SimbleeCloud, it sends an initial packet that lets SimbleeCloud know it wants to communicate. You can redirect this initial packet by inputting the ESN of a service or pool you want to send the packet to. Finally, there's an Enabled checkbox. Uncheck this if you want to disable your module. Clicking the Create button will create this module and add it to the table. Now that we have a way to identify data from Simblee modules through an ESN, we can redirect, process, or store this data. To do that, we use services in the form of PHP scripts. To send to a specific service, we need to assign an ESN. Click the Services link on the left-hand side of the page. Let's add a new service. Click the New button. First, we need to give our service a name. This can be anything, something that's identifiable by you. We'll name ours Button Flash Service. Next, we need to assign our service a unique ESN. This can be any 32-bit hexadecimal number, but you need to make sure it's unique. We'll use 1 for our ESN. Finally, we need to assign a URL to our service. This is where your PHP script is located. I'm going to use my Simblee Sandbox account for this service. Again, you can enable or disable this service using the checkbox at the bottom. Hit Create, and you've created your first service. Next, let's create a pool. A pool is used to address a group of web pages that are connected to your SimbleeCloud. The ESN you assign a pool would be used in all of the web pages you want associated with the pool. This allows you to have groups of web pages that can be addressed separately. Click New to add a new pool. Let's give our pool a name. I'm going to use Web Pool. Again, we must assign a unique ESN. I'll use 2. When a web page from the pool sends data to SimbleeCloud, the data is sent to the destination ESN. To force that data to redirect, enter a different ESN in the Force ESN field. We'll leave it blank for now. Just like a module, when a web page initiates connection with SimbleeCloud, it sends an initial packet that lets SimbleeCloud know it wants to communicate. We can redirect this packet by putting a different ESN in the Initial ESN field. This ESN can be a module, service, or another pool. You can leave this blank for now as well. Just like modules or services, you can enable or disable the pool from here. Click Create, and we've created a pool. Today we're going to be setting up local control of your SimbleeCloud device. I have with me the Simblee Development Kit number RFD77803. Let's get started. To get us started, let's assemble our hardware. I have a USB shield, RGB LED shield, and my Simblee 7-pin breakout board. I'm going to put these together, plug it into any USB port on my laptop. For this example, we'll control the RGB LED locally using button A as the on switch and B as the off switch. Let's get ready for programming. In your Arduino IDE, navigate to Tools, Port, and make sure the correct COM port is selected for your Simblee device. Go to File and save this sketch as lighting_local. Above the void setup function, we'll declare 3 variables. They'll hold the pin values for our green LED, our on switch, and our off switch. Next, we'll define 2 more variables to hold the current state and previous state of our LED. These variables will change when we press our buttons. Let's move on to the void setup function. We need to set up our pins with the right pin mode. First, our LED will be an output. Type pin mode, LED, output. Next, our on and off switches, those will be inputs. Do the same for those, but use input. Let's begin our serial communication and print a simple line to the serial console. Now let's move to our loop function. With each loop, we need to check the status of our switches and set the LED on or off depending on the values. Below the void loop function, define a new function called read switches. This function will read our on and our off switch and set the current state variable accordingly. First, we'll check our on switch. If digital read on_switch equals high. If the digital read of our on switch equals high, then we're going to set the current state variable to 1. We need to do the same for our off switch. So if the digital read of off_switch equals high, then we're going to set current state to 0. We're done with that function. Below the read switches function, we need to define one more function. We'll call it check state. In this function, we'll check the current state variable and turn the LED on or off accordingly. So if current state equals 1, we'll turn on our LED with digital write LED high. We'll also print to the serial console light is on. Otherwise, we're going to turn the LED off with a digital write LED low and print to the serial console light is off. That's it for that function. Let's go to our void loop. First, we need to read our switch values. So using the function you defined below, type read switches. Next, we'll determine if we need to do anything. So if the current state variable does not equal the previous state variable, then we're going to check our state using the function defined below. Then, we need to set our previous state to our current state variable for the next iteration. Now let's compile and upload our sketch. If we press button A on the RGB LED shield, you'll see the light turns on. If we continue to press button A, nothing happens. But if we press button B, the light turns off. In your Arduino IDE, open the lighting_local sketch that we completed earlier. Go to File, Save As, and save this as lighting_mobile. We're going to build off of our lighting local sketch and add mobile control. Above our pin variables, we need to add the Simblee for mobile header file. Next, we'll create 3 variables to hold our Simblee for mobile object IDs. Let's add these under the state variables. Note that here we've used shorthand to define 3 variables of the same data type. Let's add a few lines to our void setup function. Under our serial.println command, type simbleeformobile.advertisement_data and change it to light. Then start Simblee for mobile with simbleeformobile.begin. Underneath the void loop function, define the void UI function for Simblee for mobile. First, we'll begin our screen with simbleeformobile.begin screen. Next, we'll draw a rectangle that will change colors from green to black when the light is on or off. We'll save this in the mobile light variable. Remember that the simbleeformobile.drawRect function takes 5 arguments. The first is the X location, the second the Y location, the third is the width, the fourth is the height, and the fifth is the color. We'll draw our rectangle at 30X and 80Y. It'll be 260 pixels wide and 260 pixels tall. Also, it'll be black to start. Next, let's draw our on and off switch using simbleeformobile.drawSwitch. We'll pass 2 arguments, first our X location and second our Y location. We'll draw our switch at 135x and 380y. Make sure to save this switch in the mobile switch variable. Next, we'll draw text to indicate if the light is on or off, and save this object ID in mobile text. Type mobile text equals Simblee for mobile.drawText. We'll pass 5 arguments to the Simblee for mobile.drawText function. The first will be our x value, and we'll set that to 100. The second is our y value. We'll set that as 180. Next, we want our text to start as off. Our fourth argument will be white, as we want our text to start white. Finally, our fifth argument will be the text size that we'll set as 60. Next, we'll use Simblee for mobile.setEvents to make sure the press event is caught on the switch. Finally, you can end the screen using Simblee for mobile.endScreen. Under the void UI function, we need to define one more function called void UI_event. This will allow us to catch the press event on our mobile switch. The UI_event function receives one argument, which holds information about the event. We're going to check which mobile object generated the event. If it's our switch, we need to change our current state variable. So, if event.id equals mobile switch, invert your current state variable. Now, at the bottom of your sketch, we're going to define the Simblee for mobile_onConnect function. This function will run when your mobile device connects to your Simblee. We'll print a line to the serial console stating that our mobile device is connected. We'll do the same for the Simblee for mobile_onDisconnect function. Now we need to add some code to our void loop function. At the bottom of the function, we'll first check if Simblee for mobile is updatable. We're going to change the color of our rectangle to indicate the color of our LED. So, use Simblee for mobile.updateColor. We'll pass 2 arguments to this function. The first will be our object ID, so mobile light. For our second argument, we'll check the current state variable and send the corresponding color. Next, we need to update the value of our switch in case it was changed using the buttons. Type Simblee for mobile.updateValue. Again, we'll pass 2 arguments to this function. The first will be mobile switch to indicate our switch object, and the second will be our current state variable. We need to update our text, so we'll type Simblee for mobile.updateText. The first will be the object ID corresponding to our text, so mobile text. The second will be either on or off corresponding to the current state variable. Next, we need to update our text color, so Simblee for mobile.updateColor. Again, our first argument will be mobile text to indicate the text object, and either black or white corresponding to the current state variable. Next, we need to update the X location of our text. Type Simblee for mobile.updateX. Again, we'll pass the mobile text variable as our first argument, and either 115 or 100 corresponding to the value of the current state variable. Beneath the if Simblee for mobile.updatable block, type Simblee for mobile.process. We're all set, so save, compile, and upload your sketch. Go ahead and open the Simblee app on your mobile device. You should see your Simblee listed there. Open that and you should see the UI you created. If you click the switch on the bottom, you should see the LED turn on, the rectangle turn green, and the text turn black. If you touch it again, everything will return to its default state. Since we're building on the lighting_local sketch, you should still be able to use the buttons on the RGB LED shield. In your Arduino IDE, go to Tools, Port, and make sure the correct COM port is selected for your Simblee device. Then navigate to File, Open, and open your lighting_mobile sketch. We'll be building off of that. Go to File, Save As, and save this sketch as lighting_cloud. In order to add cloud functionality, we need to include 2 more headers. The first will be Simblee for mobile client.h, and the second will be SimbleeCloud.h. Be aware that SimbleeCloud uses Simblee for Mobile Client to connect. For this next part, you'll need to open your SimbleeCloud dashboard. Copy your user ID and store it in a variable in your sketch. Add a 0x in front of it to make sure the compiler knows it's hexadecimal. Next, we create an ESN for our destination. Store that in the dest ESN variable as a hexadecimal value. Remember, you can choose any value, just make sure it hasn't already been taken on your account. After you've defined your variables, we need to create a Simblee for Mobile Client instance. We also need to create a SimbleeCloud instance and pass it our new Simblee for Mobile Client instance. Let's move to our setup function. After our first serial.println command, add serial.print. The ESN of my light is 0x. Then add a serial.println command that prints your ESN. Your ESN is stored in your cloud instance as my ESN. Make sure to send hex as your second argument, as we want it printed in hexadecimal format to the serial console. We also need to set our cloud user ID, so type cloud.userid equals the user ID variable you defined above. Now we're done with our setup function. The only change we need to make here is adding a cloud.process function call underneath the Simblee for mobile.process function call. Let's move on to the void UI function. We want to know if we're connected to the cloud or not, so at the beginning of the void UI function, add if cloud.connect and print cloud connected to the serial console. However, if we're not connected, print cloud disconnected to the serial console. Under the UI_event function, we're going to add a new function, SimbleeCloud_onReceive. This function will run when we receive data from the cloud. This function receives 3 arguments: the origin ESN, the payload that was sent, and the length of the payload. The first thing we'll do in this function is print a line to the serial console stating cloud switch. Next, we'll check the first byte of our payload and set the current state variable. If the first byte of our payload isn't set, then we're going to send the value of our current state variable to the destination ESN. Next, we need to add a few lines of code to the checkState function. After we turn on our LED, we'll send this value to the cloud. So first, check if your cloud is active. If so, send 1 to the cloud and print sent to the serial console. Do the same thing after we turn our LED off, changing the corresponding values. Last but not least, scroll down to your Simblee for mobile_onDisconnect function. Underneath the serial.println function, add another stating cloud disconnected. Save, compile, and upload your sketch, and open the serial monitor. You'll see the ESN of your Simblee module listed there. Now return to your SimbleeCloud dashboard and go to the Modules section. We're going to add a new module. Click the New button. We'll name our module Light. Enter the ESN listed in your serial monitor and click the Create button. Next, we're going to create a new pool with our destination ESN. Go to the Pools link and click New. We'll name our pool Light and add the ESN we created earlier. We've now configured our SimbleeCloud account. Next, we need to grab the web files that we're going to use to control our Simblee. You can download them from service.simbleecloud.com/demo.zip. I'm going to be using my Simblee Sandbox account. Extract the file you just downloaded and navigate to that folder. Open the Light Cloud Demo HTML file with Notepad or another editor. We need to change the ESNs in this file so everything works correctly. Scroll down towards the bottom of the page until you see some JavaScript code. There are 3 ESNs here that we need to change: our destination ESN, our pool ESN, and we need to add our user ID. First, we'll set our destination ESN. Next, we'll set our pool ESN. Lastly, we need to set our cloud user ID. When you've made those 3 changes, save the file. Go ahead and open it using your web browser. You should see the cloud status change to connected. Now let's open our Simblee app. Select your Simblee and you should see light status change to connected. Go ahead and click the Turn On button. You should see the change propagate not only to the web page, but your mobile app and the RGB LED shield. Go ahead and click Turn Off and everything should change back to normal. Using the buttons on the RGB LED shield or the slider in the mobile app should also propagate the same changes to the web page. You can find more documentation at Simblee.com.